On the day of my wedding, my mother tore my wedding gown apart in front of every noble present. Raising the moon goddess scepter high, she brought it crashing down toward me, sending me sprawling across the ground.
Selene is not worthy of becoming the new Alpha King's bride. A deathly silence fell over the hall. I was the rejected silver-eyed daughter of the Silver Moon Wolf Pack. Today, as long as I completed the blood oath with the newly crowned Alpha King Ryan, I would become his Luna, the queen of all werewolves. But my biological mother, Hera, the most revered high priestess of the Temple of Light, publicly declared,
Last night, she seduced Karen, the Shadow Pletha clan's holy knight, and her sister Elena's fiancé.
The crowd instantly erupted.
I knew those silver eyes were filthy. She actually dared to betray the Alpha King? Drive her out of the Silver Moon Pack!
A chill spread through my entire body as I stared at my mother. What are you talking about? Last night, she had personally handed me a cup of blessed potion. She had smiled and said,
"Drink this, and the moon goddess will bless you and Ryan with a bond that can never be broken."
But when I woke up, the man lying beside me wasn't Ryan. It was Karen. Both of us had been drugged. I wanted to explain, but Karen had already thrown on his cloak. His eyes were filled with nothing but disgust.
Selene, I've never met a woman as shameless as you. You'd even go after your own sister's fiancé.
Then Karen staggered backward until he reached Elena's side. His eyes were red as he looked at her.
I've been tainted. You're so pure. I no longer deserve to marry you.
Below the altar, Ryan stood motionless. He had once told me that even if the entire world despised my silver eyes, he would still marry me. But now, the way he looked at me was no different from looking at something filthy. I rushed down from the altar and grabbed his hand. Ryan, someone set me up. There was something wrong with that potion. It was Mother!
Enough!
He shook me off, his voice horsey.
Selene, and I used to think you were just unlucky. Now I realize you genuinely disgust me.
I froze where I stood. Elena burst into tears and buried herself in our mother's arms. She had a pair of noble golden eyes, pale, delicate, and fragile. She looked like the most innocent sainty continent. Sister, I know you've always been jealous of me, but Karen is my fiancée. My mother gently wiped away her tears before walking over to me. Then, with her own hands, she removed the silver moon crest pinned to my chest. It was the symbol of a wolf bride's status, and in all 15 years of my life, it was the only thing that had ever truly acknowledged my existence. I stared at her. Why? She leaned close to my ear, her voice so low that only I could hear it.
Because Elena is far more suitable to be Luna. She has golden eyes. You're nothing but a stain. In that moment, I finally understood. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a trap they had prepared long ago.
That moment, Elena suddenly wiped away her tears and stepped forward. The position of Luna of the Silver Moon Wolf Pack cannot remain vacant. It would only make us the laughingstock of everyone. Since my sister committed such a disgraceful offense, let me atone for her sins in her place. Ryan, if you're willing, I can complete this blood oath in my sister's stead. Ryan turned around and placed the blood crown, the symbol of the queen, upon Elena's head. The entire hall erupted in cheers. My sister wore my wedding gown, held my Greem's hand, and stood in the place that should have been mine. And I was publicly sentenced by my own mother.
Selene Silver Eyes has defiled the blood oath. Strip her of the wolf crest and exiled her to the Forbidden Rift. She shall never return.
As the temple knights dragged me down from the altar, Elena glanced at me. Tears still lingered on her face, but the corners of her lips slowly curled forward.
15 years later, at the inheritance banquet of the Sacred Dominion Conforch, Nables and power holders from all 12 clans gathered beneath one roof. They knelt before my dragonbone throne, competing to present moon-tear crystal mines, territorial deeds, and bloodline oaths as tribute.
None of them knew that the Empress of the Sacred Dominion, the woman who controlled 80% of the continent's moon-tier crystal mines, was the same silver-eyed outcast they had once trampled into the mud.
Until my adopted son, Kaiaris, walked into the grand hall holding a young woman's hand. She wore a silver-white formal gown. Her golden eyes shone brightly, and pride radiated from her face.
Her name was Ivy, Elena's daughter, and she bore the exact same face her mother had 15 years ago. Kaio stopped before me, his tone unwavering.
Mother, Ivy will become my blood oath mate. If you approve, we'll announce our engagement tonight.
Every guest in the hall held their breath. Ivy lifted her chin slightly, waiting for me to bestow that honor upon her.
She was the golden-eyed saintress of the Silver Moon Wolf Pack, Ryan's most cherished daughter and Hera's favorite granddaughter. She was used to people lowering their heads the moment they saw her, but she had forgotten one thing. This was not the Silver Moon Wolf Pack. This was the sacred dominion confort.
This was the throne I had clawed my way towards for 15 years, inch by inch, through the bones and corpses of the Forbidden Rift. I looked at that face and remembered the wedding gown that had been torn apart 15 years ago. I remembered the poison my mother had handed me. I remembered the cold look in Ryan's eyes. Then I set down my wine glass. The base struck the dragonbone armrest. The sound was not loud, yet the entire hall fell silence in an instant. I do not approve, I said. Kairos froze.
Mother?
The smile on Ivy's face stiffened. I raised my eyes to her. You will never become the mate of the Sacred Dominion's heir, not in this lifetime. The crowd instantly exploded into an uproar. Ivy's eyes reddened at once.
Why? What makes me unworthy?
I looked at her and smiled.
Because the thing your mother stole 15 years ago is finally going to be returned today. And they had watched Elena put on my bridal dress. They knew about that scand, but they had never cared about the truth, because the stories written by the victors were always clean and respectable. Before I could speak, the doors of the hall were suddenly pushed open.
Ivy wasn't wrong.
Everyone turned around. Elena had arrived.
15 years had passed, yet she was still breathtakingly beautiful in that fragile way of hers. Her golden hair was pinned up behind her head, and the royal crest of the Silver Moon Wolfpack's Luna was embroidered on her white cloak. Behind her stood Alpha King Ryan, and Karen, the holy knight of the Shadow Leopard clan. Every person who had destroyed my life 15 years ago had finally appeared before me once again. Elena's eyes stiffened for a second the moment she saw me.
Sister, I never imagined the Empress of the Sacred Dominion would turn out to be you. She called me sister, but her tone sounded more like a reminder to everyone present that I had once been nothing more than the filthy, silver-eyed outcast of the Silver Moon Wolf Pack. Caius frowned.
Mother, you know them?
I didn't answer. Ryan stepped forward. He still carried the same arrogance of an Alpha King, though the sharpness in his golden eyes was no longer what it had been. He looked at me and remained silent for a long moment.
Selena.
Hearing that name come from his lips almost made me laugh. 15 years ago, he had used that name when he told me he loved me. Later, he had used the same voice to say that I disgusted him. And now he wanted to use that name again, pretending there were still unresolved feelings between us. I spoke calmly. Your Majesty, this is a private banquet of the Sacred Dominion Consortium. You were not invited.
Sister, if you're angry with me, then take it out on me. Why make things difficult for Ivy? She simply fell in love with Kairos.
How interesting.
I looked at her.
15 years ago, you also claimed that you had simply fallen in love with Ryan.
Karen suddenly spoke, his voice cold.
Selena, what happened back then is already in the past.
I turned to him. Of course it is. For you. After you woke up, all you had to do was call me shameless. But I had to spend 15 years in the Forbidden Rift, carrying the crime you all forced onto me. Karen's throat bobbed. There was something complicated in his eyes. Pain, conflict, and a belated trace of doubt. But I didn't need it. Belated doubt was just like belated love. Both were worthless. Ryan took a deep breath.
We didn't come here today to dig up the past. Ivy and chinesedrama love each other. An alliance between our two clans would benefit the sacred dimension as well. Selene, don't let personal grudges interfere with the bigger picture.
I gently set down my wine glass.
You're lecturing me about the bigger picture? Ryan frowned. I lifted a hand, and the attendant behind me unfurled a black and gold contract scroll. It was covered with the markings of moon-tier crystal veins. My voice wasn't loud, but everyone heard it clearly.
The Sacred Dominion Commodum controls 80% of the continent's moon-tier crystal mines. Last year, 70% of the Silver Moon Wolfpack's military supplies, potions, and room array maintenance came from Sacred Dominion resources. Ryan, you're standing on my territory, living off my mines, and still expecting me to prioritize your bigger picture.
Ryan's expression instantly.
Myself. I, Kairos, as the heir of the sacred dimension, choose Ivy as my blood oath mate. From this night forward, anyone who humiliates her becomes my enemy.
The entire hall fell silent. A flash of triumph crossed Elena's eyes. Even Ryan slowly looked pleased.
Kairos, I knew you wouldn't abandon me.
Crying, Ivy threw herself into Kairos' arms. I watched them and suddenly felt tired. Not heartbroken, just tired of it all. I raised my hand.
Bring me the blood oath scroll.
Hope lit up in at Kairos' eyes.
Mother, you agree?
I smiled.
Of course.
Before Ivy could even breathe a sigh of relief, I finished the sentence.
I agree to sever the blood oath between us as mother and son.
The smile on Kayate's face frozen.
What did you say?
An attendant brought over a black parchment scroll. It was no ordinary contract. Someone recognized it, their voice trembling.
The soul severation blood oath.
Once it's signed, blood ties, inheritance rights, and family protection are all permanently cut off.